What's happening, guys? Welcome to the Juice Live Friday night here on the Player Profiler Network. My name is Memphis. You can follow me on Twitter at DWZMemphis. And remember, this is the serious gambling podcast for the not-so-serious gambler. We're the Weekend Warriors. We're out here to have fun, win some bets, keeps us in the game when our fantasy teams are maybe doing great, not so great. And what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to give you my week one betting preview. I'm going to go through a lot of different things. We're going to hit Survivor. We're going to hit Pick'em contest. I got some player props for you. And my goal is to get you in and out of here in 30 to 40 minutes. Won't try to keep you too long. I want you to have your apps ready. I've got some really good prop bets for you. And I made sure to double check that these were still available as of 9:50 p.m. Eastern time. That's part of the advantage of being a YouTube subscriber. You get this live and early, because if you're a podcast subscriber, thank you for listening all the same. But if you get this late Friday night, early Saturday morning, things may have moved. So I hope you still get the best of the number. But that's what the show's going to be. So glad that you're here, glad that you're watching, glad that you're downloading. Really cool to see people on Twitter asking, hey, are you doing the gambling show again? And you're damn right I am. This is a passion. Dynasty Warzone, our other show, you can find it also on the Player Profiler YouTube and audio networks, but that's my baby. Been doing that for over 5 years. I love fantasy football, especially Dynasty fantasy football, but gambling, props, these contests, these are the things that I really enjoy in season. I don't bet baseball. I love baseball. If you listen to any of my other work, you know I've mentioned a bajillion times my son plays baseball. I love baseball. Don't bet baseball. I don't bet golf. I don't bet Korean badminton. I don't bet anything. I bet nothing but NFL football, occasionally a little college, maybe 4 or 5 games on the year. So I'm not going to waste any time with a long pre-open. Glad you're along for the ride. Let's get to it. But we do got to take care of a couple of bills. So stick around for a quick word from our new friends at Bet Openly.
Hey, so many ask me, what's wrong with sportsbooks? Why so many of them fail? The answer is simple. They don't innovate. They're just casino sportsbooks on a phone. That's all they've been. There are a few that are doing a good job. We partner with them. Most of them, not so much. Until Bet Openly came along. Bet Openly said, hey, we're going to innovate. We're going to do something groundbreaking. We're going to have peer-to-peer betting in all states, and you pay 1%. When you win, you pay just 1% on your winnings. You heard that right. It's 1%. With code Underworld, you qualify for just that 1% transaction fee on Bet Openly. It gives you ultimate flexibility to set your own lines and browse lines that others have set. Think about it. That's what betting should be, and now that is the reality. BetOpenly.com. The code is Underworld. Check it out.
Yeah, Bet Openly, and do check it out. You may find a rogue number that you're just like, what? That can't be real. That's not a real number. And because you're betting with another person and not necessarily a sports book, you might find something that's really profitable. So I'm going to get into survivor pools. I'm going to explain what those are if you don't know, and I'm going to tell you how to get into a couple of them if you're interested. But one thing about gambling advice, gaming advice, this is entertainment. And if you didn't listen to the opening because you fast forwarded through the opening, that's cool. But I want to play a quick bit of betting advice for you right now. Don't fast forward because it's fun, but it's a fun way to remind you of how to bet.
Goddamn Vikings! Nobody misses the extra point. So they had to do one little kick, and now I'm ruined.
No bitch to me. Bet with your head. No over it.
You heard it right there. Bet with your head, not over it. The juice is designed to give us a little bit of action, have a little bit of fun as we go into the weekend with these props. We talked about mechanical parlays, all the different things that we do, but use your head. This is supposed to be fun. So I'm going to jump right into my survivor pool pick. Now, those of you that are not new to Player Profiler, but are like, hey, my state just legalized sports gambling. I don't know a lot of these terms. It's totally cool. I'm here to help. That's why Matt and Theo and Billy asked me to do this show. They're like, hey, you like doing this. You do this. So why don't you do it for our listeners? And I'm like, totally cool. Would love to help. So if you're in a new municipality where you're in a state or an area where gaming is legal, but maybe you've never dipped a toe, I'm here to help. So a survivor pool is just like it sounds. Every week, and I'm going to read the definition from Google, because without Google, how the hell would we do anything? And here you go. In a football survivor pool, players choose one team weekly they think will win. Usually, a team can be picked one time per season. That's the case with most of them. Picks are made straight up, meaning there's no point spreads. That's also most of your survivor pools. If your pick is correct, you survive another week. And if your pick is incorrect, you're eliminated and done for the season. Some contests may have a mulligan. They may have a rebuy. Here's an example of a rebuy. Circa Millions in Las Vegas. I think it's $1,000 to enter. If you did not get your winner in last night, let's say you had the Chiefs over the Lions. Would have been a bold choice, but let's say you did. Then you can re-enter. But once the games lock on Sunday, this coming Sunday, week 1 p.m., you cannot reuse another team. You can't rebuy, at least in the one that I'm in. I'll be very transparent. I'm in a $100 survivor pool. I think first place is 6 figures, and I'm going to do my best to win it. I will have some visual aids for those of you watching on YouTube, and I will do my survivor bracket next week so you can kind of get an idea of what kind of work and effort goes into this behind the scenes. But survivor this week, there's a couple of games. There's 3 or 4 on the board. Now, mind you, the contest that I'm in, not only do I have to theoretically pick a winner weeks 1 through 18 and never use the same team twice, but I have to make double picks the week of Thanksgiving, which means like that Thursday game, that four game slate, 4 game slate. It's the 3 on Thursday and then the Friday game this year. This year we have a Black Friday game with I believe it's the Dolphins and the Jets, and then Sunday. So I got to make 2 picks that week. And then the week of Christmas, which is week 16, it's also a multiple pick week. So in the course of the year, I have to pick 20 winners if I was to go perfect, and I can't use the same team twice. So there becomes a lot of strategy. And I didn't think, when I start busting out the visual aids, I didn't think to include my survivor bracket and what it looks like. But like I said, I will take a quick snap of it and I'll post it on next week's show. So there are 3 games that I narrowed this down to, and I'll tell you why and some of the things I'm doing with survivor. I think one of the big ones that people are going to pick, Baltimore at home against Houston. Rookie QBs don't tend to do well, especially week 1. Baltimore is the biggest favorite on the board this week. They're between 9 and 10, 10.5. Check a book near you. And they're a big favorite. The problem with Baltimore is that this is a very winnable game. But on the bracket that I'm using, Baltimore has 2 to 3 other games later in the season that I like a lot better. The other game of the 3 is Minnesota at home to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to be bad. They're going to be brutal bad. And one of my favorite bets, you guys were here last week, was Derek Carr to lead the NFC South in passing yards, because I think Baker gets some time in Tampa Bay. I think Kyle Trask gets some time in Tampa Bay. I'm not going to be stunned when, Tyler Heineke gets some time in Atlanta. Bryce Young, bad offensive line, no weapons. I mean, Derek Carr to lead the NFC South in passing feels good. So Tampa's going to be bad. So I looked at Minnesota. And then the final game, I think the second biggest favorite on the board, at least it was, Washington Commandos at home to Arizona. Now, what do we got? We got Washington, who on my grid, I'm never even coming close to using these guys again. Not even once. The only thing I'm really doing here is I'm picking on the Arizona Cardinals. I got a first-time head coach. I've got a first-time offensive coordinator. I've got a first-time defensive coordinator on the road. West Coast team going east, 1 p.m. game. If you know anything about betting, that's a very tough thing to overcome. So that's a positive. New ownership group in Washington. Josh Harris, the guy who owns the Philadelphia 76ers, involved in some other pro sports teams. So Ron Rivera, Eric Bieniemy, they want to get this thing off to a good, fast start. You've got Sam Howell, same boat. You know, even though Bieniemy's an offensive coordinator, he's new to Washington. He's not new to that role. So I like Washington. I do not see a scenario where I would ever have the opportunity or would want to feel like, hey, I'm putting a big potential payout on anyone else. So in the contest that I'm in, we lost quite a few last night, more than you would think. I still think it was bold for people to be picking Kansas City if there was no rebuy option, but my survivor pool pick, strictly based on the fact that I'm either one and done or I can survive in advance. And one thing you're going to hear a lot when I do Survivor this year, you're going to hear me pick on a lot the Arizona Cardinals. You're going to hear me pick on a lot the Houston Texans. You're going to hear me later in the season as injuries pile up on teams like the LA Rams and other low win total teams. If I could, you know, I'd play against the Arizona Cardinals. Like a spoiler alert, next week I'm looking New York Giants against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to be picking on them a lot. But this is my only real chance that per my, you know, work and the grid that I've created, that I'll be using Washington in my personal survivor pick. Now, the next thing that I do, and this is going to be, it's a pick'em pool. I'm going to show an example here in just a second, but there are free pools. They're free to enter. DraftKings had a free one last year. This year it's also $100. But I've got a couple of free ones for you, and I'm going to promote other sites. But I believe that for those of you that want to try these type of things, especially with no financial investment, I mean, you do have to give them an email address, but bees that way sometimes. If you've ever heard of the Action Network, the Action Network is they do their own content. They do fantasy football. They do gambling. I listen to one of their podcasts. It's called The Favorites. It drops a couple of days throughout the week, and they're doing a contest over there. And it's I got this right here for you. It is favorites.actionnetwork.com. Favorites.action. Maybe it's The Favorites, but if you search it, you'll find it. Favorites.actionnetwork.com. That takes you to a free pick pool, as well as pregame.com. Now, this is my favorite personal podcast that I listen to. It's called RJ Bell's Dream Preview. They've got kind of like Player Profiler. They have a network of pods, and they're really good. And this is one that I really enjoy. And they're doing a free contest. It's like the Super Contest. And I'll explain what these contests are again. This is go to pregame.com. There's a contest. Again, it's free to sign up. They're giving away prizes. And it's just like, hey, I want to make these picks, but I don't want to invest any money. Or, hey, I want to make picks, and I live in a state where I can't make gambling bets. Cool. These are ways for you to enjoy the juice, enjoy the show, get in some of these contests without having to actually put money out of your pocket into a contest. You can do it for fun. You can prove you're just as smart as anyone else. There is an actual tracker of your record, which is kind of cool. And maybe the Spurs greatness. I don't know. But the Super Bowl of sports betting is the Westgate Super Contest Gold. Now, the Gold is based on selecting winning teams against the Westgate Las Vegas Super Bowl contest lines. Contestants must select 5 professional football teams per week. Contestants may not select both sides of a game. So, like, you can't hedge to go 2 out of 3. You can't take Cleveland on one side and then Cincinnati on the other, and then Tennessee on one side and the Saints on the other to guarantee 2 wins every week. They don't allow that. You have to only pick one side of a game. Next thing, contest winners will be determined by the number of participants and points accumulated. Each winner is guaranteed money. Now, the free ones that I mentioned at pregame.com and favorites.actionnetwork.com, those don't require anything, again, but your email address. So if you want to get in this, They're totally free. This is not betting advice, but if you want to do this information to do what you will with it, I am totally cool. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see my pregame ticket. I walk it like I talk it. Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, maybe a little bit small. It's small for me because I have a couple of windows open as I'm doing this podcast, but these are my 5 picks for the week. And I will tell you, I didn't share a version of my Action Network plays because I picked a couple of games different because as much as I like these picks, I want to give myself a little wiggle room. My number one play of the week is the Browns at home plus 2.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's the contest line. You can see it right here on my picture. I'm not giving you bad numbers or rogue numbers. This is the contest number that I locked this up. The Browns absolutely housed the Bengals last year on, I think it was Monday Night Football. I know it was Halloween. Pretty cool, right? 2 orange-based teams, fall colors, and Cleveland looked good. And I know there's concerns about Deshaun Watson and what's he going to look like. I got news for you. I'm just as concerned about Joe Burrow and the calf, and I know he got paid. I think the Browns win this one at home. I think the Browns win this one outright. We all love the Bengals, but they have not had the best of luck under the Joe Burrow administration with the Browns. So I will take the Browns in this contest plus 2.5. This next one might be my personal favorite play on the board. I know a lot of people are on the Browns. I'm on the Saints -3 at home. Don't like having a bunch of favorites. As I said last week, the Vegas casinos and sports books were not built by favorites. But I do like the Saints at home. I think this is a good team, and I think this is a good offense coming right out of the gate. I think Derek Carr, for whatever you think about him as a fantasy asset, if you're normally a player profiler, fantasy content consumer, whatever you think of him as a fantasy asset, he is a professional. He's a professional quarterback. And I think they win this at home. I think that New Orleans crowd is going to be wild. I like the offensive additions. I do have a prop in this game later in the show, but that's my second pick. Saints -3 at home against the Titans. Third pick, this one's kind of popular out there in the betting world if you listen to other betting podcasts like I do, and that's the Steelers plus 2.5 at home against the 49ers. First of all, East Coast team hosting a West Coast team, traveling early start time. That always favors the home team. It's not a 3-point swing, but it's saying that on a neutral field, basically, that the Steelers are 4.5 to 5 points worse than the 49ers, and I just don't think so. You've heard this stat before, I'm sure, but in all 5 drives where the first team offense was on the field for the Steelers this year, they scored. And we have not seen a ton of this offense together. Kittle's got the groin issue, may or may not play. I know they got, CMC and they've got Debo and Ayuk, but just getting Nick Bosa back, how effective will he be? And Brock Purdy. I mean, everybody talks so much about Nick Bosa being back. Remember last year, TJ Watt held out and he didn't get going until late. Well, he didn't hold out this year. And I expect TJ Watt to be a handful in this game. I think the Steelers, kind of like the Browns, I'm taking the 2.5-point favorite outright win for the Steelers. The Chargers laying 3 at home to Miami, 4:00 game. And I don't get it. This team absolutely housed Miami at home last year. And go look at Tua's game splits before and after this game. It was as if Brandon Staley laid out, and for everything about Brandon Staley, some people love his analytics, his go for it nonsense, whatever that may be. They love that about him, but he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. He was a defensive coordinator for the Rams before he took this job. And not only did they play Miami extremely tough at home, but they did it without 3 defensive starters that they'll have to start this game. I think the Chargers get out hot. I heard someone earlier this week say that Justin Herbert was their favorite to win the MVP. I don't know if I like the Chargers that much in 2023, but I'm going to take them week 1 -3. at home against the Dolphins. And then my final game, this number has fluctuated. So if you're betting these, that's on you. But because this number is dropped, this is a contest line. This is 3.5 with the Giants. I think this is a close game. I'll be honest. I think the quarterback matchup's a push. I know a year and a half ago, we would have definitely considered Dak Prescott to have been the superior quarterback. I don't know in 2023 if that's the case. And I feel like I've got the better head coach and the better schemer of plays in Brian Daboll. A lot of weapons added. I think that this will be a lower scoring game. And in a lower scoring game, the hook matters. I'm going to take the Giants plus 3.5 in these contests to be my 5. So again, my 5 for the contest, if you're doing a pick'em like me, or if you're going to jump in a pick'em like me, my 5 personally on this contest are the Browns at home plus 2.5, Saints at home -3, Steelers at home plus 2.5, Chargers at home -3, NFL football Giants at home plus 3.5. So I took 5 home teams this week in my pick'em contest. So we're going to jump into the player prop segment of the show. And before I do that, you might need a place to potentially do a little bit of prop betting, and one of our sponsors might be the right spot. Let's hear a word from our friends at Rival.
Hey, we've got to talk about Rival Fantasy today. Rival Fantasy, they're a huge supporter of everything we do, the podcast channel, the YouTube channel. It's possible because of Rival, and they have an incredible new offer with promo code PLAYER. Promo code PLAYER, you double your deposit up to $200, and you get $25 in bonus bucks. So it's $225 additional to play in NFL preseason. You can do their props on the fantasy book where it's over, under, up to 5 guys. The more over-unders you hit, the higher your payout. And they have their challenges for the community. You can say, hey, I think that player X is going to go over this many fantasy points, and someone takes you up on it. They take the other side. It's great. I love their fantasy bingo, where you can do 5 across, you can do 4 in the corner, black it out, just predicting fantasy points on your favorite players, especially in preseason. The promo code is PLAYER, where they match your deposit up to $200 plus those $25 in bonus bucks. This offer is insane.
You imagine old Matt Kelly, the podfather at your local bingo hall, with his energy level, fired up, next to Gert, blue hair, the little bingo marker thing. I think that would be a sight we could stream that live. Matt playing bingo, the podfather playing bingo at a local bingo hall there in Connecticut. Well, if you're still watching on the stream, I am ready to share some player props with you for the week. I am going to start off with a 1 p.m. game. This is the Buccaneers going up to Minnesota to play the Vikings. My prop on this game is going to be Rachaad White over 2.5 receptions. Now, this is a guy who had 50 receptions as a rookie last year, and there is no competition. There's always competition, but there's next to no competition in this backfield as it relates to touches. I think we'll see a little Sean Tucker. I think we'll see a little Keyshawn Vaughn. But this is the type of offense that's not going to bring in a veteran. And if you've listened to the Dynasty War Zone, and you'll hear this stat a lot, last year, Baker Mayfield, no quarterback in the league, checked down by percentage more than Baker Mayfield. 11.3% of his pass attempts last year were checkdowns to the running back. And even though these running backs were in places like LA or Carolina, why can't we do that in Tampa Bay? Another reason why I like this. Are the Buccaneers favored? No, they're not. They're a 5.5 point dog. Check a line near you. And when you're behind, what do? Check down, dump off, check down, dump off. We saw this last night in the Thursday night game with Isaiah Pacheco. I think he had 4 catches. They were trailing. And it's, advantageous to check down sometimes. And given Baker's willingness to do it, Rachaad White's ability to do it, I don't love the juice. I love the Juice podcast because I host it. The juice on this bet's 140, but remember, you only pay the juice when you win. So Rachaad White over 2.5 receptions. And by the way, if you look at this, this is a screenshot. I took this just before I did the podcast. This was on BetMGM Grand. Now, I forgot to preface that before my first bet. But again, so we're all on the same page. My first bet is Rachaad White over 2.5 receptions. So he's got to get 3 to win. He's got to get 3. I forgot to mention something about this. So BetMGM Grand is a sponsor of Player Profiler in general. It's not a sponsor of this podcast, but it's a sponsor in general. If you go there, use promo code Underworld. Use promo code Underworld. There's a bonus in there with like a first bet protection. You check that out. But shop these lines. I'm going to tell you the importance of line shopping. Not that it mattered because this guy shit the bed last night, but if you went to FanDuel last night, this was Thursday night, and you were on Sky Moore's prop like I was. I know. His over-under prop on FanDuel last night was 48.5. His over-under prop on BetMGM was 41.5. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because he had 0 receiving yards. Killed me in fantasy. But I wasn't the only person on Sky Moore last night. But my point is you got to have 3 or 4 different apps. We would prefer that you go to our sponsor, BetMGM. Again, promo code Underworld, but shop lines. Now, when you were a $5 bettor, a $10 bettor, a $20 bettor, getting the best of the number is important, but it's not the end-all, be-all. But it's a good discipline to be in when you're wagering. I don't care how much you wager for. There's a saying, and I heard it from Jocko Willink, and if you've never heard of Jocko, famous Navy SEAL, podcaster, entrepreneur, interesting fella. And one of the things that he says is discipline equals freedom. And that discipline of shopping around, looking at different books, it's going to pay off because if your aspirations are to bet more and to do this more seriously, it's a good discipline to have. Hey, I am just preconditioned to always check 2 or 3 books, make sure I'm getting the best of the number. I may only save 2 cents here, 5 cents here, and that doesn't add up. But at the end of the day, those little pennies, those little best of the little, better number. Like you may find this Rachaad White prop, and I didn't find it anywhere cheaper, to be honest, but you may find this prop or something similar at a better or worse price. Don't bet at MGM Grand because they're a sponsor. Bet at MGM Grand because they have the best price. That's always what we're looking for, the best price. So I wish I had said that before my Rachaad White handicap, but I like Rachaad White. Due to Baker's his willingness and necessity of checking down, they're going to be behind. They're going to be trying to play catch up. And I've said all off season on my fantasy work that Chris Godwin and Rachaad White are going to get a ton of passing volume this year. Absolutely love it. Next one, I didn't circle it on some of these. I did circle it. I'm gonna make this better. I'm new, and this is a new show for me, and I want this to be aesthetically pleasing. This one right here is boggling. This is also a BetMGM directly out of the app. Jamaal Williams, running back for the New Orleans Saints, over 1.5 reception, even money. Now, this prop to me makes sense if Alvin Kamara plays, because if Alvin Kamara was playing, Alvin Kamara is the lead back. Alvin Kamara is going to get the checkdowns. Alvin Kamara is going to lead the backfield in touches. That makes perfect sense to me. But Alvin Kamara is suspended. He's not playing this week. And I don't think that they're just going to turn this backfield over to a rookie on day one. And Jamaal Williams can catch passes. So how many do I need him to catch? 2. Now, they are a favorite. They're one of my favorites to win in my pick'em. But this is 2 catches. And the yardage prop, I'm going to get to the yardage prop here in just a second. His yardage prop is over 8.5 yards. Now, I wish they'd let me parlay those. That's a parlay I do. That's a correlated parlay because it stands to reason that if he gets those 2 catches that he needs to win the first bet, he would win the second bet. I love this. I absolutely love this. Derek Carr is not a mobile quarterback. He'll check down a little bit. And Jamaal Williams for these first 3 weeks is going to get a good amount of work. So we'll call this 2A and 2B of my props. I like Jamaal Williams over 8.5 receiving yards, and we'll go over 1.5 receptions at even money. Now I could get like the Rachaad White prop where you got to lay a little extra juice to get that number. You got to lay $1.40. That makes sense. This is great. This is fantastic. And I didn't mean to pick all running back props. It just kind of happened that way as I was going game by game, getting these because the slate's good. It's not all the way full. Like I was looking for a Dalton Schultz prop. I was looking for a Darren Waller prop. I was looking for some of those, but this is the third and final one that I have for you. This is Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos over 11.5 receiving yards out of the backfield. And I just think to the one game that he played in the preseason, he had 5 catches. If he gets 5 catches, guys, and that wasn't even like 3 series, I think, he's going to go over 11.5. And this prop is not even available anywhere else but BetMGM. Again, the fact that they're all on BetMGM, Grand, and they're all running backs is strictly happenstance. That's just where I happen to see him, but I think this is the best of the number. Las Vegas last year, the Las Vegas Raiders, to the running back, they gave up 100 receptions. That was the 4th most to the running back in the league. They did that on 127 targets, also the 4th most in the league, and they gave up 818 receiving yards to the running back position last year. That was the most in the league. And that's exactly how I think Javonte Williams is going to be used. We've seen the Sean Payton offense use running backs for years. I can go back to Darren Sproles, Pierre Thomas, obviously the last 4 or 5 years with Alvin Kamara, with his last 4 or 5 years in New Orleans, you saw the usage of the running back. And I think that's exactly what they'll do in Denver. And for him to go over an 11.5 feels like a pretty easy number. Normally, I'm an Undertaker. I can't play the Undertaker sound music because that would create what's known as copyright infringement. But I will tell you, I'm looking for super low numbers to go over, or I'm looking for inflated numbers to go under. Didn't see a ton. I was hoping that Jamar Chase's number was going to be a little bit higher. I like going against the big names. I like going against big names. I like going under big names, but these are like small numbers. And again, the line in the Raiders-Broncos game is 3. So it's going to be a close game. So there's going to be checkdowns. We also know that in Denver, there are a lot of injuries to the wide receiver corps. Jerry Jeudy questionable. It's basically Tim Patrick out. It's basically Mims, Cortland Sutton, Adam Troutman, Greg Dulcich, and Javonte Williams. And I do think P. Ryan will get his. There are no P. Ryan props. But those are my 3. Rachaad White, over 2.5 receptions, and that's lay $1.40. That's the worst price, but I do like that. It is Jamaal Williams over 1.5 receptions. I don't think that's a horrible number if Kamara's playing. I think it's a great number without Kamara playing. And Jamaal Williams over 8.5 receiving yards. I like that over as well. And they're both at minus 110, which is fantastic juice to lay. I'll tell you, you go to DraftKings, you go to FanDuel, you're a minimum laying 114, 115. And for these final 3 to be 110, it's a really good price. I've done the shopping for you. And if you go to BetMGM, Grand, you need to use promo code Underworld. There are bonuses and all that other good stuff over there. So that's the show. We're 35 minutes in. I really appreciate the people I see you watching on YouTube. I hope you're reacting. I hope you're moving. And I hope you get in these free contests with me. We'll do a recap next week. Hey, how do we do in Survivor? How do we do in our pick'ems? How do we do on our props? And then we'll do it all over again. That's what the juice is about. It's going to be Fridays between 9 and 10 p.m. It just comes down to when I finish doing the research because, well, you still got to go to work. You got to do that day job, and then you still got to hit the gym. Might want to have dinner with the family. Then I get to work on the juice so that we can enjoy our NFL entertainment, not always relying on our fantasy football teams to provide that entertainment. So, guys, I'm really excited to be here. I love this stuff. If anything else comes up that I really like, I'll tweet it out. And I'll tweet it out and I'll tag Player Profiler, but just make sure you follow at Roto Underworld and at DWZ Memphis. I do that sometimes, but guys, I'm not going to force it. It is what it is. I would recommend you download all the big 3 apps. You do DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM Grand. There's some other ones out there that I use. Barstool's got one. Again, just always looking for the best of the number, and don't go crazy. Remember, bet with your head, not over it. This is entertainment. This is fun. This is not financial advice. This is not. I'm not the Warren Buffett of these things, but I do pretty well. Looking forward to doing more of this with you guys, and have a great season. Podcast coming out right behind it. If you are a video consumer, I am going to get out of here and go get to work on some editing. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be back next week. Thanks, guys.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.